The old man was sitting in his usual place, with zikr of Almighty Allah on his lips, but slightly preoccupied with the loaf of bread, which was going to be his sustenance for the entire day. Always the same, just one loaf of bread every day. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam happened to be walking past. The old man thought, here is my chance to send a message to Almighty Allah. So he greeted Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam and said somewhat falteringly, O holy man, when you speak to your Creator, can you please ask him to increase my rizq? For so long, now all I have is a single loaf of bread per day. I long for more. Can I not have more than this? If you ask him, O Musa, surely he will answer your request and grant me more. Without hesitation, the reply he got from Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam was that his request would be put to Almighty Allah. And so it was. The reply that Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam received was that the old man's lot in life was to receive one loaf of bread per day. That this was what had been written for the old man for all the days of his life. The next time Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam saw this old man, he passed on the message to him that one loaf of bread was all that he would receive every day for all the days of his life, as it had been so written in his destiny. The old man was overjoyed. He clapped his hands with delight. Surprised by this reaction, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam asked him the reason for his joy. The man replied, If it is written, then so it shall be. I have nothing to worry about. At least I will always receive one loaf of bread for the rest of my life. And with that he went back to his prayers. Now as the months passed, the man's tranquility increased with the knowledge that he need not worry about his sustenance. This enabled him to focus more on his remembrance of Allah, which caused him to have less time to focus on food and even less time to eat. So, from eating one loaf of bread per day, he barely managed to eat half a loaf. What remained of the loaf of bread every day was put in a corner. Soon the pile in the corner began to increase until it became a huge heap. One morning, a herdsman was passing through the village and he stopped to speak to the old man. He was looking for hay for his livestock, but there was none to be found. The old man said to him, Why don't you take the stale bread that is lying in that heap, soften it with water, and give it to your animals? The herdsman did this, and his herd happily ate every last crumb. The herdsman, to show his gratitude, gave the old man a nani coat and went on his way. Days passed into months, and a few years had gone by. When Musa alayhi salam happened to be passing this way again, to his astonishment, he found that the spot where the old man used to sit had been transformed into a garden. There were fruit trees growing nearby and animals grazing not very far away. There were a field with grain and a general atmosphere of abundance and well-being. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam found out that all this belonged to the same old man. Puzzled because he knew what was written in the old man's destiny, a single loaf of bread per day. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam was determined to find out what this was all about. How could this be? A loaf a day is all that was written, yet the old man had so much more. The answer when it came is something we should all take heed of. One loaf of bread was the rizq that had been written for the old man. The fruit trees, the livestock, the field of crops were the barakah, which came from the acceptance of what he had been written as his lot in life. It was his reward for his complete trust in Almighty Allah. The barakah was the result of his shift in focus from what he wanted to enjoying what he had. to such a degree that even after eating as much as he wanted, he still had some left. His needs had become so small. The abundance this created in the old man's life was compounded by his generosity and willingness to share what he had. So, risk is written, but barakah comes when we trust in Almighty Allah completely, and when we are generous with what we have, and when we are grateful, and when we put the ibadah and zikr above everything else. May Almighty Allah make us among those who are grateful and obedient to Him. Ameen, Ya Rab.